So welcome to today's webinar. This is the fifth in the My Farm to ECE mini webinar series, and today we'll be covering local food purchasing from food hubs. My name is Abby Harper. I'm the Farm to School Specialist at the Center for Regional Food Systems, and I'm excited to be on today with Noel Balachek and Marty Gerenzer, who are the co-leads of the Michigan Food Hub Innovation Network. And they'll be sticking around to answer any lingering questions after the webinar. And Marty and Noel, feel free to chime in at any point if you have something to add. Last week we talked about local food purchasing from farmers. So this is the second in kind of that local food purchasing series. I just want to start by reminding you all that if you are using the Child and Adult Care Food Program funds, you must follow proper procurement procedure. So this means using the appropriate method depending on what quantity of food you'll be purchasing. Most folks in early childhood fall in the informal purchasing method, which requires cost comparisons from 3 different vendors. And we'll come back to an example towards the end of the webinar of how this could be used with food hubs. If you need a refresher on local procurement rules and regulations, make sure to check out our previous webinar from a couple weeks ago titled Introduction to Local Procurement. That's available on our website. And the United States Department of Agriculture also has a really great guide titled Procuring Local Foods for Child Nutrition Programs, which goes into much more detail on the different procurement methods. And remember, these procurement thresholds are meant to be for purchases from a single vendor. So if you purchase less than $150,000 over the course of a year from a single vendor, then you can use the informal purchasing method. So what is a food hub? A food hub is one option for purchasing local food. And according to the USDA, there are essentially 3 characteristics of a food hub. The first is that they are aggregators, distributors, and marketers of product. So they bring food from many smaller farmers in order to reach larger, mostly institutional markets. They're also regional in scope, meaning that they purchase products from farmers within some narrowly defined geographic range. So some food hubs focus on a county or region of the state, while others may have a larger geographic range and may source from the entire state. So this piece of only sourcing from within a certain region is really one of the defining characteristics that distinguishes a food hub from a broadline distributor or a specialty distributor. They specialize in a particular region and they only source from within that region. And then finally, food hubs provide some level of source identified information. This could be as simple as labeling products as produced in Michigan or by the county they were produced in. And some food hubs go the extra mile to identify the particular farm that products come from. There are many reasons that a food hub could be a good option for local food purchasing for an early childhood program. I want to emphasize that these characteristics are general and there may be exceptions. One of our food hub specialists at the Center for Regional Food Systems has a famous saying that if you've seen one food hub, you've seen one food hub. So these are really kind of general characteristics across food hubs, but each one is different. But in general, food hubs may have more consistent quantities since they're sourcing from many farms rather than just one. In this sense, if one farm has a crop failure, they have other sources that they could look into to fill in for that product. They also tend to streamline logistics for ordering and delivery. So instead of ordering many different products from many different farms, you're working with one ordering and delivery system and one kind of middle person. They can often provide a wider variety of products because of the number of farms they work with. That photo on the right side of the screen is a shot from a food hub delivery to an early childhood program in Grand Rapids, and this was from early June. So you can see the really wide diversity of products that they had available. And some food hubs provide some minimal level of processing, freezing, or storage services, which can increase the quantity of local food products year-round. I'll have a couple samples in a little bit from some different food hubs and the products that they provide, and you'll see that there's some level of freezing and storage, season extension through storage. And in some cases, food hubs can help limit the administrative burden. Rather than comparing costs across many different farms, you can just compare the cost from the one food hub to several other vendors and really find a good price and follow proper procurement procedures. So the first step in working with a food hub is obviously to find one that serves your area. We're very fortunate in Michigan to have a robust network of food hubs. One of our largest statewide food hubs is Cherry Capital Foods, and they aggregate product from all over the state and are increasing the regions they're capable of serving. So their definition for their food hub is statewide. They recently expanded into the Okemos area here in central Michigan and are trying to reach statewide, though there are still certain regions that they're not able to service. We also have a lot of regional food hubs of varying sizes throughout the state. I want to distinguish between food hubs and produce distributors. On the right side of the screen, you'll see a list of some produce distributors, and we have a lot of those throughout the state that have been increasing their sourcing of local foods. But as I mentioned before, the distinguishing feature of a food hub is that they source only products from within a certain region. And while most of the produce distributors source a fair bit of Michigan product, especially in the summer months when more products are in season, they don't exclusively source local foods. And food hubs are defined by that regional definition. So there's a list of the regional ones here, and the next slide will show a map of where they're all located. I also want to emphasize that we have a couple of emerging food hubs in Flint, Muskegon, and Saginaw. None of those are currently existing or servicing customers, but they are in the works. So as you can see, our food hubs kind of span all over. Cherry Capital Foods are one really statewide distributor, has 2 locations. Those are the locations of their warehouse, but they function throughout the state. And then most of the other ones located here service their particular region. So for example, the Sprout Food Hub in Battle Creek sources from farmers that are within a certain distance of Battle Creek. West Michigan FarmLink in Grand Rapids kind of covers the west side of the state, sourcing from a lot of different farmers along that coast. And Washtenaw Food Hub sources from within the county of Washtenaw. So they all have various definitions of their kind of local food, but they're a little bit more narrow in terms of the region that they can service. So you can see through this map if there's a food hub that's close to you, and note that food hubs are a growing trend and kind of emerging all over. And I mentioned the 3, one in Flint, one in Saginaw, and one in Muskegon, that are kind of growing in size. And there are lots of ways to learn more and get connected to food hubs. MSU Extension educators are one really great resource for learning more about food hubs in your areas. You can find yours at their website, and they may have information on food hubs that serve their area. One of our Cultivate Michigan members found a food hub just by talking with farmers at the local farmers market, and they directed her to West Michigan FarmLink. A couple farmers at that farmers market sold to West Michigan FarmLink, and so she was able to connect with the food hub that way. The Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development may also have folks aware of emerging and developing food hubs. You can also ask community partners that work in local food. And then the United States Department of Agriculture Food Hub Directory is a resource for finding local food hubs. That's not complete, and not all of the food hubs that I mentioned in this webinar are listed there, but it can be a good starting place to see if they have any listed in your region. And finally, our own Michigan Food Hub Learning and Innovation Network, which is housed here at the Center for Regional Food Systems, is really a wealth of information to learn about food hubs and get looped into the network activities. Marty or Noel, do you want to maybe quick give an overview of the Food Hub Learning and Innovation Network and what you guys do? Either one of you.
Sure, I can just give a really quick synopsis. Thanks for having us on, Abby, and appreciate folks joining this webinar to learn a bit more about food hubs. The Food Hub Network is essentially just a business-to-business network for food hubs and for anybody interested in local food aggregation and distribution. We have 3 statewide meetings per year at locations around the state. We also host a number of webinars and workshops and other trainings throughout the state. and we share most of the information about our activities and about various resources and updates through the Michigan Food Hub listserv. And so if you do want to get connected with the network or attend an event, probably the best way to get connected with us is to either send myself or Marty an email. You can also hop on the Center for Regional Food Systems website and go to the Michigan Food Hub network, and we can get you onto that listserv, and then you'll sort of hear about what's going on and what's coming up. And we'd love to see you at a future meeting.
Awesome. Thank you, Noel. So once you've found a food hub in your region, it's important to ask questions about their logistical operations. You'll need to make sure you understand their standard operating procedures, including whether they have flexible or firm delivery options and days. Some other good questions to ask are whether or not the food hub provides specific farm source information on their products, including whether they provide information on production practices or food safety practices. One challenge for some early childhood programs is that in general, many food hubs have either a minimum order requirement or a delivery charge. So make sure you know ahead of time what that is and whether you can place one large order to meet that minimum order requirement. You should also ask questions about how often updated product lists are made available, whether or not there is a standard delivery schedule, and how frequently you can place an order, as well as whether there are specific payment terms and whether there are certain forms of payment that they accept. So this is a sample price list from Sprout Food Hub, which I mentioned earlier is based in Battle Creek, and this is from the week of January the 9th. You can see they provide weekly updates of what products they have available, and this is the information that they make available to their customers. So they provide information on the price and case size, specific farm source information, including location, and then brief information on growing practices. Sprout sources and delivers specifically around the Battle Creek area, and I know they have kind of a day of the week where they typically provide product information, a day of the week where they require orders to be placed by, and then a standard day of the week when they do delivery to different areas. And then this is an excerpt from the recent newsletter from Cherry Capital Foods, which is our statewide food hub. This email contains an overview of what products are going to be available in different months, and then links to a frequently updated Google Doc that includes a more updated list of what products and quantities are available. So this allows for some forward planning for institutions so they can predict what products they might be able to purchase in future months. And as you can see, Cherry Capital does provide a fair bit of processing, and they provide a lot of frozen products that you can use in the winter months, even when farms aren't harvesting them. So those are two different examples of food hubs throughout Michigan and the information they provide. And then I just want to remind you all that once you find a food hub, you must ensure that you follow the proper procurement procedures. Since many early childhood programs fall under that 150,000 level of local purchasing, you can follow the informal procurement method. This method requires you to document several frequently purchased items and their standard price, and then compare it to 3 other vendors. So one early childhood program in Michigan that purchases from a food hub uses this tool to compare the cost of 5 frequently purchased items from a food hub, and then chooses 2 other vendors locally, perhaps a grocery store or another vendor with a similar variety of products. And then they can also use other reasons that they might choose the food hub if they end up not being the cheapest option, including the ease of streamlined ordering from one vendor, the food hub's delivery offerings, or any other requirements that they might make. And once you've identified a food hub you'll be working with, it can be helpful to set up agreements ahead of time to make sure that the purchasing goes smoothly. You can set up standard procedures for communication, set up regular ordering and delivery schedule, and any other agreements to make the process go smoothly once you're up and running. If you have any guidelines or requirements for receiving product, or whether a particular person needs to receive it or other protocols, you can set those up too. And then one important agreement to discuss is whether or not the food hub has any product guarantee policy. This is to ensure that you're covered if a product is out of stock or arrives in a condition that's unacceptable to you. Many food hubs have standard guarantee policies, but you'll want to know what it is ahead of time so that you can plan accordingly. And then after that, you're ready to purchase. If you've done all the pre-work of setting up systems and agreements, it will go smoothly once you get started. This is the same photo from earlier from Becky Questinite, who's a chef at Baxter Children's Center in Grand Rapids. And this is a shot of their food hub purchase in early June. They got all of these products from one food hub, and so you can really see the variety she was able to access through this vendor. And it was one delivery and drop off rather than working with all of those farmers individually. So there are many things that programs are doing to help make food hub purchasing successful and address the challenges of being a smaller program and working with a vendor that's trying to reach larger institutions. Quantity tends to be the most difficult hurdle in working with food hubs, so you can get creative in how you might be able to increase your quantity. If you're a small center, you can connect with other similar programs in your area that would be willing to aggregate an order and have one drop-off point. If you're a family daycare home, you can find other family daycare homes that are interested in purchasing from them. You can also connect with the school if you know they have a local purchasing initiative to see if you can tack onto their order in order to meet that minimum order requirement. Another option is to invest in some sort of storage space, whether that be a larger refrigerator or a freezer, so that you're able to buy more products in bulk to meet the minimum order requirement. If you're unfamiliar with Cultivate Michigan, it's a really great resource for finding food hubs that carry particular products, and you can use it to track your products as well. And finally, if you find a food hub that you can build a successful partnership with, it's really great to be able to work with them over the years to try to find new products that they might not normally carry and kind of use them to work with farmers to grow different products according to your needs and wants. And that's about it. So thanks for joining us today. As I mentioned, Marty and Noel are on the line too to answer questions at the end. If anyone has questions, you can type them into the chat box. And we'll hold on a few moments if anyone has anything. Noel or Marty, did you have anything you wanted to add? Any tips for working with food hubs or anything like that?
I think you covered just about everything I would have said, but Marty, feel free to jump in. I think that was a really good overview.
That was a great overview, Abby. Really helpful, and gave a good view of the state of Michigan where our hubs are. As we said, if you have specific questions, we can between Noel and I, we can certainly try to be of assistance and be a connector to you with the hubs. The most important thing really is to be as pre-planned as you possibly can. Get the orders in as early as possible, so that the hubs can let the farmers know to plant accordingly. They'll be here on the west side. They'll be trying to get out to the field by mid-March, and I think most parts of the state, and planting. And they'll plant according to your needs if they know. Otherwise, they still will try to service you through the hubs, but it's just a little bit harder. So pre-planning has always been an opportunity for success with our farmers and our hubs.
Yeah, thanks for adding that, Marty. And we mentioned last week on the webinar with farmers that kind of planning in the winter for, 6 to 9 months ahead can be a really great way to ensure you get the quantity that you need. And I appreciate you pointing out that the same can be true for food hubs, that if they know what quantities you're going to be needing ahead of time, they can work with farmers to make sure that those quantities are available. So thank you. And in addition to in the off season, if food hubs know that you're going to demand a certain amount of frozen berries in the winter months, they can work with their processors and farmers to make sure that they put that amount up. So thank you. All right. Does anyone else have any more questions or about today? Seems like we've got a pretty quiet group on the line. All right, well, thanks to all of you for being here. If you have any questions afterwards, you can follow up with me and I can connect you to Noel or Marty if that's the case, or answer your question if I can. So thanks so much, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, Abby.
Thanks.